As far back as I can remember, I dreamt of a normal life. A life filled with normal things. A life where monsters don't live in closets or under the bed. A life where ghosts aren't real. I just wanted to be normal. But that didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. Since my early 20s, I have experienced profound paranormal events that would change my life. Extreme poltergeist activity, living amongst those that have departed this earth in ways unimaginable. It has affected my loved ones and children with no end in sight. I could hear things, see things, and feel things not of this world. I asked myself if this was a gift or a curse. With the help of my mother and close friends, I emerged a paranormal investigator. Since 2013, I have been on a relentless journey to learn about the paranormal. This is my time to share my journey with you. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox.
Sandy said she can't hear you.
Yep, Val said the same thing.
No audio.
Properties. Speed device. There we go. Sorry. I blew my whole intro. I updated my Windows today and it set all my stuff to default, so I apologize to that. I did not check my own microphone when I was going over everything. So, sorry guys. My Paranormal Soapbox, episode 71. We're going to be talking about the power of suggestion, and that's going to cover a large range of different things. And we're going to try to talk about most of them if possible, but we're going to try to narrow down what specifically involves the paranormal and what the power of suggestion does when we investigate, when we perceive what we think is paranormal, what we perceive, a lot of things. So thank you for joining me. Sorry that my microphone was muted there for a second. Thanks for letting me know. I see lots of people joining us on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us. We have Missy and Jess with us tonight. Are you girls ready for tonight's episode?
Ready.
Ready, Freddie?
Ready.
Okay. Let's do this. Okay. I think the most important thing to understand is the mind is very powerful, and other people's influence on us is very prominent, prevalent, and important to understand. Our brains are designed around human interaction and influence when it comes to upbringing, learning, and social development and social interaction. Influence, power, suggestion is rampant, okay? Suggestion can come from an outside source and an inside source. The outside source is clear. People suggest things to us all the time. It's deeply embedded into our culture, advertisement. Everywhere you go, you're being suggested something. You're constantly being suggested things, and you're constantly taking those in, assessing them, evaluating them consciously and subconsciously, and you're working them into your behavior and your personality. Okay. If a wide group or social structure suggests things, whether it be right, wrong, good, bad, it doesn't always have to be black and white like that. It could be a wide spectrum of suggestion out there. But the first point I want to make is a good investigator of the paranormal tries to be objective. With that being said, there is a lot of bad methodologies and practices out there that Interface Death does, and they're guilty of, and a lot of people that I see are guilty of. Biases are one thing, but the power of suggestion is probably the most impactful thing when it comes to the paranormal. We go try to seek things to investigate out there, the pay and play places, the places, the ghost towns, the urbex exploration, the cemeteries, what have you. There's going to be stories, there's going to be things suggested to you and brought to your attention. Okay, it doesn't always have to come across as a suggestion. It's just some type of stimuli or information that is presented to you, whether directly or indirectly, that will influence you. Okay, and this involves the power of suggestion. The stories, the claims, and visual stimuli and stimuli from all the senses are going to suggest things to your psyche. Okay, but the most important ones we'll cover. Okay, not only what people that's been there tell you, the tour guides, what they tell you, the historians, what they tell you. It's also your investigators, what they tell you. Okay, and it's also what you suggest to yourself, your own biases, your own suggestions. Okay, whether you believe in the paranormal or you don't believe in the paranormal, if you go to a place and you hear it's super haunted and that intrigues you, when you go there, you're expecting it to be haunted, you're expecting to capture EVPs like everyone else has, you're expecting to see the shadow figure here, you're expecting this, you're expecting that. We try to go into a location not expecting anything, because us seasoned as investigators know that rarely does these things happen for us when we want them to. But the brain has a tendency to make things happen when we're suggested them and when we have we're predisposed to believe them. Okay. And we also have things called the placebo effect. And that we'll definitely talk about the placebo effect. And that's like a blanket term, okay, for this episode. Don't sit there and pick apart my use of the word placebo, but we'll explain and elaborate what I mean by placebo. Placebo is when you're given something with the idea or the information that it's supposed to do something for you. In the medical field, it's a fake pharmaceutical pill that's supposed to do something for you. If your brain thinks it's going to do something for you, it will. Okay, in a lot of cases. This is very much not understood. We are trying, the scientific field and the medical field is trying to understand it, but it goes along with the psychology of the mind. Okay, and we'll talk about the placebo effect a lot during this episode, hopefully. But what we want to try to accomplish and the takeaway from this show will be what can we do to try to eliminate powers of suggestion. Okay, what do we do wrong in general? What do we do right? What can we do to improve the way we look at things, the way we investigate, and what can we do to stay objective? And that is very hard. We are very subjective creatures of habit, creatures of subjectivity. We see things through a very subjective lens. Our senses are very subjective. Our memory is very subjective. And our view of the world, our ego and our, sense of who we are is very subjective. So we have to take that in consideration. There are ways to, be objective, to stay objective, and to try to go around this issue. And we'll talk about those. One of them is to go into a location without knowing anything. right? If you say to yourself, well, if I'm told that it's haunted, I'm told this and told that, then that's going to be a suggestion. If I'm not told anything, I'm not told the history, I'm not told the claims, I'm not told the hot spots, I don't know what to expect. So that's a perfect scenario. If I go in there with investigators, and if they tell me, hey, did you hear that? Or hey, did you feel that? Or hey, did you see that? The mind, depending on how impressionable you are, will be suggested those things, and you might tend to experience things that other people say they experience when in fact you do not. And that's not because you're a liar, that's just because you're human. Okay, you want to see the things in the first place. You want to experience things as a group, as a friend, as a functioning member of society. And this goes outside the paranormal folks, as you can probably tell. So when we're going through the place, if it looks creepy, that's going to suggest to you that this place might be haunted. Or if it looks a certain way, those are suggestions. If it smells a certain way, those are suggestions. If it feels a certain way, if it's cold, if it's damp, if it's dark, if it's run down, is it dilapidated? Is it empty? Is it very old? Is it very new? All those things are suggestions, and they have power. Okay, all these things stimulating our mind in certain ways have power. So we have to take in all the considerations of these psychological aspects and factors when we investigate how they influence us independently and as a group and as a whole of a paranormal community. So this is what we're going to talk about. I definitely want to know what you feel, the power suggestion, how it affects you. What do you do to try to eliminate the power suggestion being an issue when you're doing paranormal research? What are the pros and cons of investigating with yourself, investigating with a team? What are the pros and cons of knowing the history and not knowing the history? I want to know what you think during the course of this show, and I think it's going to be pretty awesome. We will definitely talk about the placebo effect, because I think that goes hand in hand with the power suggestion. And I want you guys to really understand, if you really haven't fleshed this idea out and really thought about it, I want you guys to really know what placebo effect is and how it applies to paranormal research and everyday life. So with that being said, we'll go over to the girls and we'll see who's on. We'll shout some people out, and we're going to have fun tonight with this one.
Go ahead, Missy.
Okay. I have RJ Murphy. I have Sandy Griffin. I have Heather Elliott. I have Wes Storm. I have Josh Bender, Derek Schreiner, Marilyn Borst, Becky Compton, and Josh Fritz.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us tonight.
And I have no one on RE Media that has commented anyway.
Okay. Uh-oh, you need your headphones in.
I was going to say, I hear some kind of echo.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. On YouTube, we have Val. Darren Smith was on, Sam Thomas, Betty, Supernatural Lost Adventures, and John joins as well. John said, I might pronounce this wrong, nocebo effect can come into play too.
Yes. Yeah, well, we can talk about that if he wants. But the placebo effect and the nocebo effect are definitely, they go hand in hand. It's the polar opposite of placebo effect. We'll definitely talk about it. So, where should we begin? As I'm talking, folks, please let me know what you think. Give me a question, give me an example of, the power of suggestion. What I really want to talk about is how we can change and better our investigative style. And let's talk about how Interface Death investigates and why we do it and how we can change it and how that will compromise how not only our video production will look, but how it will, end up being. Because when we're investigating, we have a camera to interact, engage with. And it ends up being the audience, whether it be a live stream or you're watching a video, a documentary, or an episode. How is that going to play in with the power of suggestion? For example, if I say something and you girls hear me say it, whether I feel something or I see something or whatever, how do you think that affects your guys' experience? Do you think that it can affect what you actually experience at all? What do you girls think? We'll get your take, and then we'll kind of hopefully get some questions and comments.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm gonna want to see it too, so I'm gonna like come to where you are, I guess, or experience what you're experiencing. Like the shadow person in the basement at Bel Air House. I seen it and you seen it, and we were both standing right there next to each other. And I said it, and then you said it. You're like, yeah, he's right there.
Well, I think that's a little different because it happened at the same time, and it
Right.
felt like that was not a power of suggestion. It felt like you actually did, and I actually did.
Right.
I'm talking about, let's say, a different. Let's try to use a different example.
Like Derek and the thing that walked out of the cell at Ohio, or at the old Lincoln County Jail.
See,
Okay.
that's what I was going to say. Missy Moon, like me and you, and there was times I think you were doing that too, as I was, like you would say, "Did you hear that?" And I'm thinking, "Well, I did hear something, but what was it?"
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, and a lot of times I say yeah, but I kind of doubt myself because I don't know. I've always been like that, and I don't know why. If just hearing something that somebody else pointed out, and it's like, wait, thought I heard something too. But it's kind of like, was it because you said something, or did I actually hear it as well?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So that when it comes to two dueling psychics, it kind of feels like that at times.
Mhm.
If Jess, picks up on something, Missy wants to pick up on something. Maybe not the same thing, but she wants to pick up on equal amounts of things so she feels, as adequate. And that's human nature. So that knowing how much she picked up on, like Missy really likes to sit in on Jess's walkthrough. She wants to know what she's picking up on. And that could be bad and it could be good. We'll talk about the bad. Missy, kind of talk about how the power of suggestion works when you're actually being influenced by another psychic picking up on things, and how you need to feel like you have performance anxiety or maybe an expectation more tied because it's like, you're interacting in the dynamic with another psychic. Kind of walk us through the psychology of that.
Well, I think the only time that I've actually joined you on one of her walkthroughs was when I had already done mine.
Right.
Because you won't let me do it beforehand. And to me, it's like she's my validation. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as psychics, we're always looking for validation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I get that. I understand that. Yeah.
And I'm like, is that right? And Justin's looking at me like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, then I'll just go ask Jess.
But you pick up on a lot of things that I mean, we work well together. We're different.
Right.
But she sees here is things. I pick up more emotions and pathways and stuff. And I mean, I get a download. She's like in it right now. Like she can, hear things, see things, feel things. And I think that's a great dynamic with both of us as being too different. But like I was saying, it was like when she's picking up on things and stuff like that, then it's like I have to kind of stop what I'm thinking in my, what I feel like I'm thinking, just in case I'm using what she's saying is to reach for something.
Right. If one of you mentions something, how does that influence what you pick up on is what I'm asking and what I want to get to.
In the room at the old Lincoln County Jail when we were doing the live stream,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was you had said, I said, I just heard that. And you're like, I heard something. I'm like,
Yeah.
we both heard something, but neither of us knew what we heard.
Okay, okay. Let's get to the bottom of what I'm trying to flesh out here, and we're going to go to chat. If you, let's say Jess picks up on a man and gives a little bit of information about that man, does that change how you're trying to investigate or be psychic? Okay, are you trying to pick up on those things about the man? Are you trying to sense the man? Or you hearing what I'm saying? How does that influence
I got you now. Yeah, a little bit. I'll like try to hone in on that and see if I can pick that up. But most of the time I don't. So
my problem with that, the issue, the con is that's when your imagination and other psychological things can start filling in blanks to you. You know what I'm saying? I want to leave, if we're going to investigate our psychic abilities and apply them to our investigation, I don't want anything suggested at all to you.
Right.
So that's the con there. So that's what I was trying to get to. But let's get to the I know I've distracted you from the comments a lot. So I'll talk for a minute. You guys go back to the comments and we'll get to you guys, because I see a lot of people chiming in here. But that's what we're getting to, folks. Not only do psychics really need to, be conscious of this, investigators equally need to be conscious of it. If a tour guide tells us, okay, there was a nurse here that hung herself in room 502, how is that going to influence the way you investigate? You're going to investigate the possibility of the nurse. You're going to use ITC devices. A lot of people would, for example, to try to contact a nurse that killed herself. Okay. You may not consider anything else outside of that. You may direct your attention away from things that you need to pay attention to, and it's going to impact your investigation. It's going to narrow it, focus it, and you're going to start assuming things. If you hear a woman's voice, what sounds like a woman's voice, you're going to say, oh, that must be the nurse that hung herself. It may not be. So it may limit the possibilities that you need to pursue or think about. So that's just one example of power suggestion. So to combat this, one thing that a friend of mine on Facebook, he's going to kill me for forgetting his name. What the heck's his name? Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
I'll read Dan's comment real quick then while you're looking that up. If you see something and your friends are in an investigation, of course, senses are heightened. Trust is important.
I agree with that. Is that all you got on YouTube so far?
And he also just said, once you hear a tragic event in investigating, your mind is already focused. I agree.
Right. So,
and I think that's great. Like, I don't know anything about any locations. I'm new to all this. So I don't even know. I mean, I know names of them now a little bit, but I don't know any history and anything of how bad I want to do the tours and stuff, because I love the history of locations. But I don't know any of the history until Justin puts out the video.
For example,
that's it.
You may not know jack about the history, but if you walk into a jail, an old jail, it's your brain is going to start taking that information and computing it. Okay. Right. That's what we're talking about. Greg Hardman. Okay. He's a paranormal researcher from the UK. He has a group. I think it's the Association of Anomalous Studies, something along that line. And very scientific fellow, tries to be very objective. And he suggested something to me that a lot of old school investigators do, but does not look great on camera. And I want to talk about what looks good on camera, what people will watch, what gets people interested versus what is actually good investigation practices. If everybody went in there with notebooks and pens and pencils, and instead of telling each other and the camera what we're experiencing while we're experiencing it, we write it all down. And we try not to react emotionally to everything if possible. And we write everything that we see, smell, hear, taste, everything. We write everything down, every little detail down, the time stamp it, everything we can think of. And at the end of sessions, we compare notes to see if anybody had the same experiences, if they heard the same thing, saw the same thing, see if any subjective experience could be collaborated. Because, like in a court of law, if a witness that had no connection or interaction with another witness report the same thing, then you can assume that something happened objectively beyond a reasonable doubt. Not in all cases, but in most cases. So that is actually a good way to investigate. Does that look good on camera? No, it does not. Okay? There's a lot of things that don't look good on camera, but that we should be doing. So next year, when we begin filming again, you're going to be noticing a lot of changes in what we do. It's going to decrease the entertainment value of a lot of stuff that we put out there, but I'll think it will increase the amount of legitimate paranormal research we'll be doing and teaching you folks. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned for that. We're going to try to become better. Now, let's see if we can put that into practice. Do we have anything on Facebook we need to address here? I'm sure we do.
Michelle Harrell jumped on. Robert Murphy jumped on. Anthony, I don't even know how to say his last name. Anyway, Anthony jumped on. Troy jumped on. And Freddie jumped on. Nelson jumped on. Robert said our medium walks the location and only informs myself of what she picks up. Usually about halfway through the investigation, I will start targeting known information if it has not already been picked up by others.
Do you think once you start targeting what you said, maybe if she gave you a name and you start using that name, do you think that would suggest things to other investigators that may be hearing, and you think that might impact things from that point on? Or do you think it might be a good idea just to not ask for anything or call out anything and just see if anything happens that collaborates with that? What do you think? Do you think that's would be a better approach or not? Because I know we're looking for validation. Right. Or, we're asking, is your name David? And if it says yes, that could be a form of validation. But that's not 100% validation. Okay? It's just a word that could collaborate with a question. So I want you guys to focus in on that. If you're using a spirit box and it's, really timed with a yes or no response, asking a question, you cannot automatically assume that that's you got something good there. You want to consider it, but you kind of get my drift.
Michelle said I prefer to write what I see, hear, and feel on an investigation and then compare to what others gathered. However, it depends on the role I am in during the investigation.
Nice.
I also think, if you know anything about, sorry.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
She's still breathing.
If you know, oh my God, hold on. Sorry, go ahead.
Jess has extreme headache right now, and she's combating it, so bear with her. Anthony says we do that, works really well with no suggestion at all, just better direction. That's good that you're trying to do that.
Oh, I forgot. Eddie Pence is on RU Media.
Eddie Pence. Do we know Eddie? I want to think I do.
I think I might be friends with him on Facebook. I don't know.
I just don't remember him being on the show a lot. But I think I do know him through Facebook. Go ahead.
But
Jess.
I think if you go into a location and you know a little bit of the history, it's almost like you're guarding just the information that you know. Like you possibly won't let any of the information that you don't know come through. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I get it. And I think, as we talked on the phone before, there's a lot of things psychics use for information that they may or may not be aware of. Patterns, information in between, if you read between the lines or if it's in the subtle details that you notice that you either relate to or know about or connect with. Okay? Especially if you start talking with the individual. Okay, you're going to really start connecting with them, and you're going to, depending on how your brain works, you're going to see things start coming to you and feel things start coming to you. Okay.
Well, it's almost like when you're reading somebody, you're reading them before you start reading who's around them.
Right. Yeah, I think that's important to understand.
Derek had a comment. He said, Spirit is your, what is Spirit is your name? Bart, Spirit, your mom.
Yeah, if we were only so lucky to get that response, that would fuel our laughter for years to come.
I would probably quit. I would be done. I'm like, it's done.
You would quit. You'd be like, our work is done here.
Yeah, we're done.
Our research has concluded for this evening. Becky
Dan
Compton.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to read her comment. Go ahead.
Yeah. Dan just said you needed to exclude yourself from everything.
Exclude myself from everything?
Well, I think he's just saying, in general, go to investigation.
Yeah, he says, I agree with not knowing anything before going into a location. It can be hard because everyone wants to talk about the history. Yes, we are influenced by paranormal media and pop culture, going to tours, reading books, watching documentaries. We want to know about the history because we feel that it's connected to the phenomena. And that it can be a subjective way of approaching things. Most of the paranormal researchers out there are very nostalgic, okay? So knowing that, you're going to want to connect the history with the phenomena. You're going to, bring in your own emotional attachments and connections into your methods of investigating and what you pursue. And that is actually not being objective at all, which can be bad in the eyes of someone who wants you to exhibit objective methodologies and approaches to understanding what's there by removing the flaws of people's tendencies, okay, of subjective tendencies. So we're not trying to judge ourselves. Well, we do try to judge ourselves, but I'm not trying to judge you guys out there. This is a way to try to, enlighten you and maybe inform you and educate you on possible ways you could look at things and maybe change about what you do in the paranormal field.
Kasha, is that how we pronounce her name now? Kasha. I think certain people in a team should know the background of the property and spirits might be there. The property and spirits might be there. You don't know. You don't want to end up calling any spirit in. Sorry, I read that horribly. I think certain people in a team should know the background of the property and spirits might be there. You don't want to just end up calling any spirit in.
Okay, well, if the act of trying to connect with the spirit world is the catalyst for bringing things in, it doesn't matter what you do, in my opinion. If you think just asking for something to come through is the catalyst for anything to come through, I can agree with that. Okay. I would suggest that you take an observation approach, that you just place yourself in the environment where the claims occur and see if they occur. Now, in my opinion, in my research and studies and experience tells me that when people report paranormal phenomena to me, they're not expecting it. They're not asking for it. And they don't know anything about the history or how it's collaborating with the phenomena they are experiencing. Okay? With that being said, we want to replicate that scenario. If we're walking down a hall where someone reported seeing a shadow and feeling a cold spot, we just want to put ourselves in that hallway at the time they reported it and see if that happens. And that happens a lot during private cases as well. If a client tells you that they hear someone talking in their bedroom at 2:30 at night, every night in the morning, okay, and it bothers you, keeps you awake, and it terrifies you, what you want to do is sit in that room at 2:30 a.m., recorders rolling, and do nothing but observe to see if that occurs. You may not want to be there. You may just want to put a recorder in there, which is what I suggest, and have them sleep in there or try to sleep and see if it happens. The last thing you want to do is introduce things that have nothing to do with the claim to investigate it. You don't want to go in there with flashlights, a spirit box, laser grids, and try to get things that they didn't report. Okay? We, as a group, as Interface Death, are guilty of doing those things because we're trying to emulate TV shows and, trying to be techie all the time and doing all these things. So this also impacts the entertainment value of a video production that you're putting out of your Paranormal Investigation 2. I want to make that point as we go on.
Michelle Harold said, I think we have to distinguish where or what we get as psychic mediums is placed. Is it evidence, etc., or is it simply personal experience?
It's a claim. Treat it as a claim. If I'm sitting here and all of a sudden this cup starts levitating, that's an experience. And if I tell you that I experienced it, that's a claim. If you are going to investigate it, you're going to sit here and try to replicate the exact scenario that when that occurs to see if you experience the same thing, and try to do nothing else outside of that. So if, let's just say, for example, Jessica walks into a cell and says she felt something touch her. If you are going to investigate that, use that as a claim. Walk in there, see if you can experience the same thing. If not, then it's just an isolated, subjective experience and a report that someone, has for you. So it's nothing else outside of that. You can't look at it as evidence of a haunting because you don't know if it's a spirit or a dead person doing it. You don't know what it is, but you can validate an anomalous event that you don't understand happening to you. That's pretty much all you can do.
I just want to, Anthony, send me the picture that you're talking about. And once I feel better, I will give it a look. I won't open it until I get better. So my first impression for you, I'll send it to you. So yeah, just go ahead and send it to me, and then I'll let you know once I get rid of all this. Not so much here, but here.
That's gotta suck. It's more than tension headache. It's MS related.
It's a trigeminal. I forget the name of it. I call it TN.
TMJ, is that what it's called?
No, TMJ is different. You got the 3 nerves that branches off, and that's what it's
different.
all.
It is different.
Yeah, it's actually nicknamed, a little info for you all. It's nicknamed the suicide disease because not everybody, obviously, but it's one of those diseases that it's bad. Okay, sorry.
All right, let's see here. Have we gotten to everybody's comment and question? I think so. I've been trying to help you guys keep track because usually we get plenty of them streaming through. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that, if we're filming our investigation, that's obviously going to impact it. But, do you guys ever try to, I know some of you said that you go into a location not knowing anything, but have you tried to do anything beyond that? Have you tried to just go into a location, take the information down, if you're presented with any information? Do you go into a location not knowing a hotspot, not knowing any history, nothing? I'm just curious if anyone does that.
While you are waiting for replies on that, I do have a question from Spirit Stalker Afterlife, which they said they know it's off topic, but just real quick. Has anyone on the panel actually ever seen an object actually move, such as books flying off the shelf? I know it's off topic. I personally haven't, that I recall.
I definitely have. Absolutely.
I have.
And unquestionably, I've told a story on the show before. I grew up in a house from 1990 to 1998 that had pennies and coins levitated and thrown across the room dozens of times. Now, the time in between these events are not very close, but when it happens, it happens. I've seen water manifest out of midair and fall on someone. I've seen doors open and close. That can kind of be pulled into that category, but that can also be explained by, naturally doing that. I've seen windows shatter without any known reason. I definitely have.
Wes Storm had a question. He said, would you say that we have a better understanding of the power of suggestion today? If so, would that make investigations from the past, like what the Warrens were doing, tainted and unreliable?
I think that there's things to learn about past investigations and investigators. I think you constantly need to revise, learn, educate, and put into practice not only what you preach, but what you learn, and trying to think outside the box stuff too. Okay. So you constantly want to investigate everything, but you don't want it to suggest things to you that affect the way you do it, if that makes sense. Okay, so hopefully that answers the question. I don't know if understanding more about power of suggestion now taints what other people do in the past, but I think that it sheds light on things that we can learn from and improve from people like the Warrens in the past. I personally think that there's a lot of controversy that surrounds the Warrens because they've made money and made a career out of investigating the paranormal. Because the skeptics and the haters want to use that to discredit them. On the other end, the firm believers in the Warrens and in paranormal research and investigation through popular culture will defend what they do, even when they may have done something wrong or exploited something, whether it be for money or fame. Okay? But there's always some type of middle ground that you need to consider when you're trying to pick apart and evaluate people's intentions. So hopefully that answers your question. That's a whole other show. The Warrens is a whole other show. Maybe we should make that as a topic. Never thought about that. Probably a good idea. There's so many topics you could talk about the paranormal. It's unlimited, I think. Oh, we got Darren Smith. Darren says, I feel your pain, Jess. I have cluster headaches. You're doing great for what you're going through. Stay strong.
Everybody's amazing. I love them all. My YouTube family.
Yes, they're very supportive. For people to watch this show every Tuesday is it's a sign of their loyalty and their interest and a commitment to us as people. They value their time. They value we are taking their time, so that's valuable to them. And just to tell you that we appreciate that, and that affects us in a way that we really can't say and be convinced ourselves that was good enough, to say, like, thanks is just to not cut it. Okay. The support you guys give us and the, just the dedication and loyalty that you guys give us there's no way we can return.
I keep seeing the comments, and I was been sitting here like a grumpy old biatch, and now I'm like, oh.
So aren't you glad you toughed it out now? Because now you're the A team is here to rescue you from your.
I'm like strong like bull. Okay, Val had a question. Could the power of suggestion be beneficial to some investigators, like help them get the ball rolling on their abilities? Like if the investigators is feeling nothing or stuck. She just commented that too.
Okay. A large part of what I think the psychic phenomena is they have to have some information, initial information. Now, you've seen the shows where the psychic comes in blindfolded, okay? Every time the psychic comes in blindfolded, it's very difficult for them to work. But they're trying to see what the information's coming from. Is it coming from the information and the stimuli from their eyes? A lot of it does. Okay. So if a psychic suggests something that they pick up on, that's being suggested to them from whatever source they're getting. So I think the best thing to do is not to tell them at all. Unless there's a point in time in the investigation where they ask because something happened and they want to collaborate it. So the best thing you can do, Val, is to document the time that it happened and what it was, the information, what it was. Handy dandy notebook or whatever you're going to do. At 9:15 p.m. on the second floor of Waverly Hills Sanatorium, I felt like a hand touched me and then I heard a name or whatever, for example. I'm going to write it down. All the information there, blah, 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 blah. Okay. If the night goes on, hours go by, and no one's really experiencing anything, I want you to go back and see if anybody talked to people. Okay, have you been on the second floor? Have you walked through here? Did you experiencing anything? If they say no, then you know that they didn't experience what you experienced. But if you tell them during the time or any course, hey, I felt something touch me, the mind will almost create that for them. They're expecting to be touched in that location. There might be some sensation on the skin that triggers that response. Oh, I just been touched. Okay. But, you don't want to try to suggest things just because it's dead. Okay. You need to accept that that's a part of paranormal research and investigation. It's going to be dead a lot of the time.
I have a suggestion.
Is it powerful?
Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. After I had to call you. Well, I have to call you, but I was excited because I always get excited when I run into somebody and I give them a reading, just a little bit. And Josh says I like to see him cry, which I don't. I don't like people crying because I don't know what to do. I'm not like I just don't know. But what Justin and I was talking about, maybe we can do this next year, is have somebody that I don't know, have me blindfolded and see what I can pick up as a reading.
A lot. I think you're still going to get things. I think the best.
Sure.
I think the best thing to do is to place someone in a booth next to you and have you on another booth. You can't see them, you can't hear them or anything, and then but you know where they're at. See what you can pick up. Okay? It's almost like the experiment we did at the Archive of the Afterlife.
Right.
We put a shroud over a case of
with 10,000 million things, if that's a such number.
You're just like, how am I supposed to do this, right? So it was an interesting outcome, and that I think that has something valuable.
Sure. Missy and it was neither one of us. Well, I don't know if you want to talk about it.
That's okay.
Neither one of us got what it was, but actually, when Steve Hummel came in and talked to me, and I'm sure he said that to Missy, like what I picked up on was different than Missy, and obviously what we picked up on was different than what was in the case. But it was actually, if he said it was actually from where the item came from, like it was like it was strange. Like I said, I don't know if you want to talk about it, if you just want to wait until
real quick.
Okay, what was in it? It was a Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
I forget what kind.
It's called the 666 Bible.
Okay. Missy, she picked up on what did you say? What did you think, Missy?
Something about I kept hearing someone say my baby, my baby.
Okay. I thought it was some kind of child's toy. Where that Bible came from, it was a some kind of hospital for kids.
If I remember correctly, it was actually in a place where a family was at, where bad things had happened. I really don't want to butcher the story. David Gear's in here. He may remember the story about it.
I thought for sure Steve Hummel said it was something when he was talking to me that it came from like a older hospital, you know,
You might be
with
right
a lot
about
of kids.
that.
But it was just.
Justin, I have a question that me and you were talking about a couple weeks ago at your house in your kitchen.
Okay, well, let Jess finish up. We'll get to that, and we'll get to Michelle Harold's because I think it's a good question.
That's the one I was talking about. So
okay,
go
well,
ahead,
Jess, finish up what you're saying.
I think I was done. I don't remember.
Well, your point is that you thought it was interesting because
yes, Mitch and I both
it's
picked
something
up
that
something.
it may be something, but it wasn't expected considering
Correct.
what it was.
And we had no idea, obviously, what was in it because it was covered.
Right. Yep. David, don't remember crap about the Bible either. Sorry. We'll ask Steve. When we go back, we'll definitely need to revisit that. But go ahead with Michelle's question.
She asked, how much of what we pick up on is telepathic? Just a question I've asked myself 1,000 times.
I think it's very possible that it is what psychics pick up on a lot. The reason I think that we do, when we do the remote viewing with Jess before we go to location, there was a remote view of Old Licking County Jail. I thought that Mae Varner had killed her husband, and that's why she was locked up in the jail. But in fact, she was put there because she was on a suicide watch. She had a previous attempt at suicide. There was another woman that was put there that killed her husband. But since I thought I got the history mixed up and I was asking her to look at certain pictures, I think telepathically she read my mind. And she came up with that woman killing her husband. So it is very possible that that is where some psychics pick up things. It's from people's brains or disembodied consciousness.
Becky has a question that you get to read because I can't say that word.
What's Justin's take on ayahuasca experiences and third eye opening? We had talked about that on the episode Drugs and the Paranormal. I don't know if you watched that episode, but I think that ayahuasca is definitely a substance that can dissolve the ego, can separate your individual sensation and oneness out of the universe, or that we're separate from the universe and everything. Ayahuasca pretty much makes you feel like you're a part of everything and outside of your body while you're in your body. So it freaks you the fuck out. Does that open your third eye? It can, but in a strange way that you may not understand if you've never taken a substance like that. So the third eye is a way that you can be intuitive, that you can see things on higher energy levels and planes of existence and vibrations. But I don't know, we don't know if the drug, the dimethyltryptamine, is involved with the pineal gland, which is believed to be the third eye gland in the brain. So it could. So if you associate visions and the feeling of oneness of the universe and that, you could be right about that. But I can't tell you for sure or not, because I don't want to just buy into that without knowing more.
I have a question from Darren Smith.
Okay.
Is there any benefits from power of suggestion for investigations?
Yes. When you're researching the mind, I think you can do experiments. I'll give you two examples. One has definitely a paranormal pro, and one can just teach you about the mind. If you make up a paranormal claim in a certain location, a certain spot, and see if they gather evidence for you, or in quotation marks evidence, that can teach you about the power of suggestion in the mind. So that would be something to try. Another thing that's interesting is, let's say Jess goes into the basement where the the booking room is and the isolation cells are. She goes into that cell. She says, okay, I'm going to imprint this location with a fake energy signature of this man who killed himself by suffocating himself with this piece of plastic. For an example, I'm just thinking of something off the top of my head. We know that there's nothing like that occurred. She just totally made it up, and she imprints that location. She suggests that psychically. Now, she doesn't tell Missy about it. Missy knows nothing about this. If she comes walking by and she picks up on it, that would be interesting. So the power of suggestion could be looked at in a different way.
Val says, what if Jess is picking up on a spirit instead of the person randomly? Put somewhere for her to find.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What if Jess is picking up on a spirit instead of the person randomly? Put somewhere for her to find? Question mark.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand the question completely. Maybe you can reword it. Do you understand what she's asking?
No, I think she put, but maybe but.
Okay.
But somewhere for her to find.
Does she pick up on a spirit randomly?
I think she's saying if I'm like picking up on something, I'm trying to find it again. Scotty Fox has joined.
Hey, Scotty.
What if Jess is picking up on a spirit instead of the person randomly? I'm thinking like if I'm picking up on a spirit. I don't know. I'm sorry, Val.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the question either. Maybe you can reword it. Yeah, the woes of live internet streaming. It would be much better if she was like on the call asking us. And there's like a 30-second or more delay too, so you have to wait. Mm-hmm. Unless you're on Twitch. If you're watching on Twitch, there is no delay, which is an advantage. Not that you guys want to do that. But we're getting close. We'll give Val some time to re-ask the question. But yeah, the power of suggestion is a thing. Is something you definitely want to consider and think about and try to not do. You don't want to be susceptible to the power of suggestion, and you want to try to eliminate anything that could influence you during an investigation. And that's the takeaway, whether it comes from investigators, tour guides, internet, TV, whatever. I also want to say that you can suggest things to yourself. It doesn't have to come from an outside source. I think you can suggest things to yourself. And that's something you definitely want to consider. Daughter of Sam, sister to son of Sam.
I like Derek's comment. I watch and Twitch. LOL.
Oh, gosh.
Now they're talking about pancakes.
I don't know if Val's going to re-ask the question, but it's 9 o'clock. We're going to wrap it up. Did anybody else have anything that we didn't get to?
No, Bill Davis jumped on late, so
we're ignoring him then since he was late.
Yep.
Sorry, Bill. Thanks, girls. Thanks, Jess, for hanging in there. You didn't have to, but you did, so that's worth something in my book. She's like, okay, end it.
I know. I'm like, right, okay.
All right. Bye. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully I did this justice. I could sit here for 3 hours and give examples and flush everything out. You guys get it, I hope. So definitely, hopefully you had a takeaway from this episode. Hopefully it helped enlighten you or changed the way you thought about things, educated you. Maybe you think I'm retarded and I should just stop. So whatever that may be, thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Like I mentioned before, the links are there in the video description. Please go to interfacedeath.net. Check our website out if you've not have done that. It's very expensive, very hard to upkeep. Everything that you could possibly know about is there. So we would appreciate that you go over there and check that out. And all of our social media links can be found there. If you're watching on YouTube, there's our link for Justin Brown Paranormal Research. We're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. If you are on Facebook and you have not went to our YouTube channel, just go over there and click subscribe. Just give me that number. It's free. It don't cost you anything. If you love what we're doing and you want to support it more, patreon.com/support interface death. You can get rewarded for just pledging $1 a month. You don't have to use Patreon. You can go through our PayPal, which is there. If you want to donate any type of financial support or help us, in our scientific endeavors or our video production endeavors or anything that you think that would help out, we appreciate that as much as well. Discord, if you want to join us on Discord, the link is there as well. If you're on Facebook, you can join us at United Paranormal Society. Send me a join request, and I will accept it. We do everything paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, ghosts, everything. So please join us over there at UPS too. We always shout out our Patreon supporters: Clay Borman, Katie Turner, RG Murphy, Scotty Fox, Casey Schreiner, Jessica Bias, Paranormal Reporter, Heather Elliott, Joe Vitale, The Ghost Guild, Kelly McConkey, Tony Felosi, Betty Kegley, and Cherry Capital Shadow Seekers. Extend your thanks to them. They're the ones that keep this content going and make sure it's here to stay and constantly getting better. Thanks to folks like them and potentially you. And they also help vote on these topics that I talk about. We put them in the group, we get a poll, they vote on these topics. So if you want to suggest and vote on these topics that we talk about, that's another perk as well. Patreon also offers rewards depending on what tier you pledge to. So that's where I'm going to end it. You guys are awesome. We love you. Tomorrow we have God, I can't think. Is it Patrick Cross? That's right. Patrick Cross is going to be on Necromancer tonight or tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join us tonight or tomorrow rather. I can't talk. I'm tired. Must be tired. So Necromancer tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Thank you guys. You can stick around for some video promotions if you have not seen them. We got the new trailer for Madison Seminary out. We got Deadlight promos. We got promos for other shows and other events coming up. You guys take care. We'll see you on the next one. Do you have that drive? That morbid curiosity to explore the darkness? Do you have what it takes to brave the night? You do? Good.
See you. What the fuck was that?
Welcome to Ground Zero. This is the talk of the talk. You know, everybody is captivated by this area. This is what I call the asylum. When I first purchased the place, it wasn't hard to know that this has been whitewashed. Everybody has their sort of the boogeyman. When you're young and growing up, be good, the boogeyman's gonna get you. Well, you wanna know what the boogeyman in Madison is? It's this place. You grew up here and you acted up in front of your parents, you get sent here. Now that sends a red flag. If this was a nice facility and everyone was being taken care of, why are you gonna send them here? Something was happening behind these walls.
Something that I picked up prior on the photos that I've seen, I keep seeing a badge. It feels like some kind of tightness in the chest. So it feels like he possibly could have passed away from heart or lung issues, but I don't know if he was an officer here or some kind of badge. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it, and it's just so overwhelming. It's just, it's a lot of
Whoa. My camera just stopped. I just got a complete shutdown of my equipment.
My main story when I first started here, that's where I saw the mass, was in the basement doorway.
Showers in prisons feel weird. More happened in there than people getting clean.
Doesn't matter what floor you're on, what room you're in, you can get interaction. This is one of the most haunted locations that I've been to.
Just walk out of your cell. I'd like to see you. What the fuck was that?
On Saturday, November 30th, take your journey into the supernatural into one of Ohio's most wicked jails. Built in 1889, the old Licking County Jail was home to its fair share of dangerous inmates, leading to 14 inmate deaths as well as 4 sheriffs. These violent deaths inevitably led to the closure of the jail in 1987. Join us for a night of history and an overnight ghost hunt you'll never forget. Your journey awaits.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.